Anyways, I want to start off with a bit of an update on the game library behind me. For me, over the last little bit, basically since end of February, really, beginning of March, really, I didn't really have the budget to add any more games to the giant collection I have behind me of 48 games now, because one of them actually just arrived, I think it was yesterday, I think it was. But I had a little bit of budget come in, shall we say, over the last couple of days or so. I think it was yesterday. I think it came in. I'm just double checking here when it arrived. I think it was yesterday. Shipped, delivered. Yes, it was delivered yesterday. So. And that was okay. There we go. Yes, and like I said, like I knew about the game and stuff like that, and there's always games that I have on the radar, games that I wanted to play, just never got around to it because of availability of the game itself. But mostly what it comes down to is budget, because games are not cheap. They're only going to get more expensive, as you can see with the Switch 2. Some of those games. Like this game, for example, which I have in my hand here, was not cheap. It was more expensive than I thought it was going to be. And this is an older Switch game. Like, this game came out in 2023, I think it was, or 2022. 2022. It's not cheap. It was like $90. Granted, there was obviously taxes and shipping. Actually, free shipping in this case because it was over a certain amount. But still, $90 for a game that's 3 years. Granted, I have a lot of games in my list that are way more than that. But still, it's not that old of a game. And the reason why I bought this one over a different one, and I'll explain what the other one was, is because this one they showed during, I think it was one of the Treehouse events recently, pertaining to the Switch 2 and some new features and new content, shall we say, for the game. Which sort of reminded me, I'm like, oh yeah, that game exists. And literally, like, it should have been here Tuesday, unfortunately. It arrived yesterday. Just because of shipping. A shipping issue, basically. It missed a connection, unfortunately. And it because of that, it got delayed. And that game is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Yes, this was one, like I said, that I have been wanting to play for a while. But just never ended up getting around to it because most of the collection that I have behind me, the last 48 games basically, which that one was number 48, have been games that a lot of them are imports, and most of them actually are also used, except for the imports and stuff like that. Like, there's stuff that I've got from PlayAsia. Actually, like 95% of my imports are from PlayAsia. Only a few of them are from eBay. And one of them is actually from Amazon. But yeah, like I have a big library of games which I love. And you might be wondering what's your plan for the Switch 2? Are you going with a big library that you have, or are you going with select games? Um, I'm probably going with select games, like games that I want to play. There are obviously ones that I will buy because I want to have them. Like, I want to have a physical copy of Cyberpunk 2077. I want to have a physical copy of Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon ZA, stuff like that. So I'm going with primarily first party games, so like Pokemon, Metroid, stuff like that. But there might be some other stuff in there as well, some smaller indie titles and stuff like that. I really don't know what the library is going to look like day one, shall we say. So it'll be all up and down sort of thing. But primarily, like, it's not going to get to the level that you see behind me, which is just crazy. It's a couple $1,000s easily. Like with what I've, like, for example, most of the collection. So you see where the Eevee is sitting, like the top of it where it's sitting was basically what I had up until basically this year. Like, I didn't have a lot of games, and then obviously with working over the last year, basically last 6 months, basically, so like May till November, well, end of October really of last year, I had a little bit more budget and stuff like that. I wasn't buying a lot of stuff, really. Yeah, there was the occasional 3D printing order and stuff like that, but primarily it was all Switch stuff. And it was about, like, with this game now, it was about $3,700. So I have to kind of lower that. So that's why I'm going to be a little bit more picky with what I buy for the Switch. Over imports at the moment. And speaking of the Switch 2 and stuff like that, after doing my initial video, which was... when was that actually? Give me a sec here, I'm just... pulling it up here. Like April, yeah, about a week ago. And basically what my plan is, because I didn't really dive into my plan and stuff like that, like, am I going to buy one, am I not, sort of thing. And I'm like, you know what, I know it's going to be expensive, and it is. It's like over $700 Canadian with tax, at least for where I live. And obviously with the stuff going on stateside, we don't know if the price is going to jump any higher than where it's already at, or if it's going to drop. We don't know. And I don't think I said in that video that I didn't want to trade hardware to lower the price. Well, after looking and sort of reflecting, shall we say, on the hardware that I have and stuff like that, like a lot of the games behind me, I'm like, realistically, the only way feasibly that I'm willing to even consider buying the hardware, i.e. the Switch 2 in this case, is if I trade off older hardware. Like my Switch OLED, which I love having it. I love having my PS4, but I've not been on my PS4 in months. I maybe did some stuff in January, February, but I haven't touched it since then. And I don't have a lot of games for the PS4. Yeah, I have some good titles and stuff like that. Like I have Final Fantasy 1 to 6. I have a couple games in there that I know I can trade for decent money. Like, for example, Final Fantasy 1 to 6 is like 30 something dollars. Animal Crossing's like 34 or something. Same with Atari 50 is again around like $30. So and you might be thinking, oh wait a minute, you also have Dark Souls. Well, yes, but unfortunately my Dark Souls trilogy that I have is not an ESRB version, or should I say North American version. It's actually a PEGI version, meaning Europe. Unfortunately, when I ordered it here a number of years ago, off of Amazon, at the time, it didn't say anywhere in the listing like UK import or whatever like that. It just said Dark Souls Trilogy PS4. Grabbed it, and unfortunately, it turned out to be a UK version. But I do have a plan to deal with that next week, actually. Like, I have 2 copies of Metroid Prime Remastered. I don't need 2 copies, so that second copy, which is my North American copy, that's going into the trade pool. And you might be thinking, wait, you said you have 2 copies? Yes, I do, and I'll grab them. Here's my ESRB, my North American copy, and here is my Japanese copy. And the only reason why I bought 2 copies was because thinking, oh great, there's 2 different artworks, right? In reality, there's the US version, or the North American version. They're the exact same. They're just reversed. So I am going to be trading this one off because I know GameStop will be able to deal with this one. It doesn't trade in for much. It's like 20 bucks. They will not be able to deal with this one because it is obviously the Japanese version. Exact same game. It's just a different rating. So there's a few games that I have that I know I'm going to trade off. Like I said, Metroid Prime, Atari 50, Final Fantasy 1 to 6, Pixel Remaster on PS4. Luckily enough, I do have a Switch version. So if I do want to go back and play them, or actually play them in the first place, I don't have to go out and spend $120 or whatever they are to buy it, because I actually have a Switch version. Which is right here. Here's the Switch version. So I don't need to go out and buy another copy. I can just jump in and play that one. And you might be wondering, why am I getting rid of the PS4? I haven't used it, like I said, in months. It's pretty much dead hardware in a sense. Like, there's no games coming out for it. Sony is pretty much focusing on PS5, which, fair enough. And I know a lot of the games on the PlayStation platform, shall we say, will come to PC at some point. So like Last of Us is on PC. Last of Us Part 2 is on PC. God of War 2018, Ragnarok, Days Gone, Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, Forbidden West. All of those are coming to PC. So, yes, I might not get the trophies, per se. It's not that I can still play them, is basically what I'm getting at. It limits the games. Obviously, there are going to be a lot of games in that collection behind me that I still end up having just because they don't trade in for much. Like Fallout 4 is like $5, stuff like that. So there's a few games in there that I'm going to keep. Obviously, like I'm going to keep my Last of Us copies, my PS3 version, my PS4 remaster, my PS4 version of Part 2. I'm going to keep those. But a lot of those games may or may not be traded. I'm definitely going to keep a few of them, just because, again, like I said, they don't trade in for much. So I'd rather keep them and have them, even if I don't have the hardware. Like, they'll be packed up probably and put in my closet or something. And yeah, I did not want to trade off hardware, primarily on the Switch side of things. I did not want to trade the Switch, because I have a ton of imports. I would say now a bulk of my collection is imports, and I'm a little bit nervous jumping immediately to the Switch 2 because of the imports, right? I have a ton of imports. They may or may not work, and what I was going to do is, and I still might end up doing this, is grab all the imports and do probably however many I have. I have to double check how many imports I actually have, and probably either in a stream or in a few videos, run through them all to make sure they actually load to the main menu properly, play a little bit of each one just to see if they actually still work. Because I would have loved to have run both my Switch OLED and the Switch 2. So if, let's say, one of the games doesn't work, I can immediately jump on and continue playing it, or play it, should we say, on the Switch OLED, where I know it works. That's my only fear, shall we say. And you might be wondering, when are you going to actually order one? So that's the thing, right? With everything going on at the moment, all the pre-orders have been basically canceled. Stateside and for where I live. The only place that I know that still has pre-orders, UK, Europe, and Japan. Those are the only places that I know of that still have pre-orders. Everywhere else has basically canceled them, at least North America wise. I'm not sure about South America, personally. I haven't seen anything pertaining to that side of things. And even, let's say, pre-orders were still available, right? Well, I don't have the budget to cover the rest of the cost of the Switch 2. I just don't at the moment. But that is going to change here in the next couple weeks, actually. Week and a half? Yeah, almost 2 weeks. In theory. Because I'm actually going to be working where I have been over the last few summers, where I was able to buy the 48 games on Switch and stuff like that over the last almost 2 years. It will actually be 2 years this July that I bought my Switch. So I was hoping that I didn't have to trade it, but due to the high price of the Switch, I kind of have to, unfortunately. That's the only way I can afford the Switch 2, unfortunately. As much as I love having the Tears of the Kingdom OLED, unfortunately, Nintendo has forced my hand into trading it off, unfortunately. Which, like I said, I did not want to do, but that's the only way the budget for me will allow me to buy the hardware, unfortunately. It's still, as I've seen and heard, it's still coming out the 5th of June, which is good. I haven't heard anything else on the price side of things or anything like that in terms of the pre-orders, at least here for North America. Yeah, so you might be wondering, like, when are you going to get one? And are you going to try to get one day one? So let's actually look here. So it's coming out June 5th. So it's coming out Thursday, which is kind of weird. I thought it would either be a Friday or a weekend. So really that gives me almost a month of work to obviously be paid and stuff like that, to even attempt to buy the Switch day one. The problem is availability, right? Because I have hardware to trade and stuff like that, right? So and there's also a little bit of work I have to do beforehand to even get prepped, right? Like I have to factory reset everything. I have to pull the SD card from the Switch, which that's a whole other topic. I have to pull the hard drive from the PS4 because I have an external one, so I have to just unplug it. Not that big of a deal. I have to make sure I have all the games cataloged on that side of things, because if I do end up buying another PS4, let's say PS5 eventually, I want to make sure I have all the games. The Switch I'm not too concerned about, at least digitally. I'll still catalog them. Just makes my life a little bit easier. At least the main ones, so like Zelda, Pokemon, I think that might be it digitally that I might log. There might be a few others. Yeah. So, what do I think of the Switch 2 itself? There's a lot of positives about the Switch 2, and then there's also a lot of negatives, obviously, like moving away from the standard SD card and going down to, or over to microSD Express. I think that's what it's called. And all right, just trying to hey, yeah, it is called Micro SD Express. That's what it is. And these SD cards are not cheap. They're not cheap. Like here's one from SanDisk for 256. So it's the same capacity, but in reality, that's like 240 gigs roughly, just a little bit over that because of formatting and stuff like that. It's currently sold out. And they have no idea when it's going to be back in stock. So, and this is just coming directly off of Amazon. Like they have just standard SD cards, but they no longer have Memory Express because people have just been buying them like crazy. So, and you might be thinking like, will I be buying one? Probably not right away. I was lucky I had a spare 64 gig just lying around, so I didn't need to buy one. But I don't have any Memory Express micro SD cards. So I don't think I'll buy one right away. I'll probably wait a bit until stuff's on sale and stuff like that. But there's a few things that I'm not a huge fan of, obviously, of the Switch 2. The main one's the SD side of things. Because you have to buy another SD card. And I kind of understand it because faster transfer speeds and stuff like that, I do understand it. But it's like, make the damn thing compatible with older SD cards. Yeah, you might not get the transfer speeds that it's capable of, but it still should be compatible. But Nintendo went the other way, which I'm fine with. I'm happy that it's not damn proprietary. Like, like the Sony PlayStation Portable back in the day, right? Like those SD cards were not cheap because they were damn proprietary. Or even the Vita SD cards were not cheap because again they were proprietary. So I'm happy that they're going down the micro SD route or staying with that, but forcing us to buy Memory Express just because of transfer speeds. Why? Obviously, the price of the unit itself is something to be debated, and the price of the games. And I do want to touch on price of games for a minute. Like, I have a ton of games in my library behind me that, and I did videos on them. Like, I have videos that were like, I think I called it like $80 plus or something like that. Like, I have a ton of games in that library behind me that were over $80. There was one at the time which wasn't over 80, which was this one. This one, when I bought it, was 70, but it typically retails for over $80, $99.99 off of Amazon. And same with GameStop as well. So technically this shouldn't have been in there, but also technically it should have because of its retail price. And I put that in the description saying when I bought it, it wasn't over 80, but it typically is. And I even said that in the video. So I have a few games in my collection that are well over $80, and then basically the caveat was it had to be at 80 or above. And then I have a few in my collection that are at 100 or more, right? Like the most expensive game I bought for the Switch, or any game in general, is the 3D All-Stars. That game's like over $200 used, which is ridiculous. And then, yeah, I do have some very expensive visual novels that are like at 100 or more. Like I have Nightshade, which was 100. Which I think Nightshade was I think $100 a game. What was it? Again, I tracked all this stuff. Um, uh, bu- 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 um, Hold on a second here. I'm just going back through my list here. Nightshade was $100. Nurse Love Obsession is like $106 Switch game. Like that is ironically the most expensive visual novel I own. And one of the top expensive games I have it overall. The second most expensive Switch game I own is a weird one, actually. Is this game, this collection. This is the Grisaya trilogy, and it was not cheap. Like, it was at the time. I think Amazon wanted, I think like 106 or something for it. Like, it was not cheap, and I ended up grabbing it off of eBay for $62.60, right? US, which is about $86, just over $86 Canadian. So with, and lucky enough that was like free shipping and stuff like that. It took a month to get here, so I ordered it January 11th. It came February 11th, basically. And it ended up being like $110 because of customs and import and all that other stuff. So this collection here is the second most expensive Switch game I own. And that's why when it comes to the Switch 2 games, I'm going to be a lot more picky when it comes to games that I buy. Because with the Switch 1, I pretty much bought whatever I could in pretty much any genre. Except for horror. That's the only genre I've stayed away from. It's kind of crazy like, to think in just under 2 years, I have 48 Switch games in my collection. Like, it is just crazy. I have ones from all different regions. Obviously, US, well, North America, really. I have a ton from Japan. And I have a few from the Asian market as well. There's only a couple that I don't have. I don't have Peggy, which is Europe, and I don't have Korea. Those are the only ones I don't have, because my rule when it comes to importing stuff is that it has to have English in some way, shape, or form. Meaning, can it be played in full English? Or is there English subtitles? Right? Like, if you look at Grisaya here, it says Japanese to English text right on the case, and that's great. So I know I can play it. Like I basically use PlayAsia is pretty much where I buy most of my imports. There have been a few that I just couldn't get on PlayAsia. Like a lot of my Pokemon stuff, like Let's Go Eevee, Detective Pikachu, um, new Pokemon Snap. I just couldn't get on there because at the time they were sold out, or they were asking way too much than what I was willing to spend. There have been a few times where have actually gotten some Pokemon stuff a little bit cheaper than US, or guess what Amazon was selling them for. Same with GameStop as well. They're basically the same game. The only difference is the cover art is different. That's basically the difference in some cases. Like in some cases, yes, I've paid way around North American pricing. The one that comes to mind right now is new Pokemon Snap. I paid around $70 or so Canadian for it. Even though I paid like 50 or 40, I think it was like 40 something US, which is actually a pretty good deal. But it ended up being around $70 Canadian, just over. But the one that I really lucked out on was I think that was Detective Pikachu. I think I got very, very lucky on that one. Yeah, I paid $18 US for it, which is at the time like $25, $26, right? If we go to Amazon right now, and yeah, it's like $60. I paid basically $25 for it Canadian. So in that case, yes, I did save money. But in terms of new Pokemon Snap, I paid $77 for it, and right now Amazon is it's like about $75. So I paid actually slightly more in that case. That's the one that I didn't do so well on. But Metroid Prime, for example, was $56. So that's around retail here. There have been a few that I've been able to bundle together, like Metroid Prime and Shining Pearl was bundled together. Eevee, unfortunately, from the same seller, unfortunately didn't have it, but I have bought a couple of things from the same seller. I bought Grisaya Trilogy, Eevee, and I bought those two games at separate times, obviously, from the same seller. Like, I always do try to buy from the same seller, but sometimes they may or may not have it, so I look for a different seller. So, but when it comes to the Switch 2, like, in terms of the games, I'm going to be a lot more picky, just because of the prices. Like, and a lot of people are complaining, like, how expensive stuff is for the Switch 2, which, fair enough. I'm complaining a little bit. But we have to remember that hardware, to make something as powerful as the Switch or Switch 2, is not cheap, right? You have a ton of R&D. You have the machining costs for all the different components. Like, we're talking millions and millions of dollars invested in prototypes and designs and everything. And a lot of people forget that. And then on top of that, you have the games as well, which that's a whole other can of worms. But basically, games themselves are not cheap to make. You have designers, you have artists, you have everybody working, right? Even the software itself to make these games, right? Be it Unreal or Slipspace in terms of Halo Infinite or whatever game engine the studio is using is not cheap, right? Like, for example, Halo Infinite, I think was like 7 years or something in the making. GTA 5 would have been probably around the same. And games themselves have budgets, right? And you can obviously go over budget, right? Because games are not cheap to make. Because the software is not cheap to buy or to build if you're going down a custom route like Halo Infinite, for example, using the Slipspace engine. But now they're moving over to the Unreal engine. So we have to be prepared to for what the market is, right? Like I said, did I want to pay 200 and something for a used copy of 3D All Stars? No. I would have loved to have paid retail price. But unfortunately, I was late and I had to pay what the market was. And we have to realize that these games are not cheap to make. Like, I'm betting GTA 5 would have been easily 100 mil to make. Halo Infinite probably would have been around the same, maybe slightly more. These games are not cheap. Like, we're not living in the early to mid 2000s anymore. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. And obviously, for me, I've seen the prices of games jump, right? Yes, in the early 2000s, you did have some games around the $60, $70 price point, like your Halos, your Call of Duties, right? Some of your bigger titles. But also a lot of the middle tier stuff, shall we say, being around the $40 to $50 price point. But now everything pretty much is $79.99, at least for where I live. There are the occasional games that are like $89, right? Like Starfield, for example, was $89.99. That is the most expensive PC game I own. But luckily enough, I technically got it for free because it came bundled with my graphics card. Would I normally pay that price? No, I would wait for stuff to be on sale. Like, good example. I've finally picked up Halo Infinite's campaign after basically months and months and months, and actually more specifically years, for it to be on sale. Because I didn't want to pay the $79 dollar price. Like, I paid less than that. Like, I do try to buy games on sale. And that's why I love having the Switch, is because it allows me to buy a lot of used stuff, right? Like, for example, there's a ton of stuff in there that is used, but also there's a ton of stuff that's new, right? Like, I paid $27 for Halo Infinite's campaign. I paid 40 for the Borderlands Collection Pandora's Box, which is not that cheap of a collection. Like, that typically is like 100 and... Like, it is not a cheap bundle. Like, it is not cheap. Like, it's typically a $200 bundle, and I paid 40 bucks for it. So when I saw that it was like 40, I'm like, I'm jumping. So I do buy a lot of games on sale. Like, I just finally got Black Ops and Black Ops 2 on Xbox. Finally. Like, there's a ton of stuff that I've wanted to buy, but I've waited for stuff to be on sale or become used, like, in terms of stuff on the Switch. Like, yeah, obviously there's a ton of new stuff that I have, but there's also a ton of used stuff in there as well. It's all mixed in. And that's what I love about physical games is you can spend your $89.99 type of pricing, or you can wait for stuff to become used. And it's up to how you want to spend your budget, right? Like, for me, with the work that I'm going to be doing this summer, right? I'm not working that often, right? I'm probably working 5 days a week, maybe slightly more because of stuff going on stateside. But yeah, like, I have to be mindful of what games cost and the cost of the hardware itself, right? The only game in my entire collection that I wish I bought before I had hardware is 3D All-Stars. This collection right here is the most expensive game I own. Besides, obviously, physical hardware, meaning the consoles. That's why it sits at the top of the stack. Is because of how expensive it is. These games on their own, for their respective consoles, aren't that badly priced. Like, I think they're about 40 bucks a piece, I think. I know Sunshine's kind of expensive. I think that's, last time I checked, I think that was around $35-40. I think Galaxy was around $45-50 if I remember correctly. And then Super Mario 64, I think that was around like $25-30 by itself. But granted, that's an N64 game, GameCube, and a Nintendo Wii. So, did I need to buy this collection? Technically, no. Because the Wii that I have sitting beside me could play 2 out of the 3 of them. It could play Sunshine, and it could play Galaxy. It obviously couldn't do Mario 64. I would have to emulate it, which obviously, that's a whole other can of worms. So this would have been the only game in my entire collection that I would have bought before I had hardware. Just because of how expensive the game is now. Like, I haven't actually checked what it's selling for right now via Amazon. But yeah, like right now the cheapest for a UK version is like $220. For an ESRB version like this one, you're looking at like $230 is sort of the cheapest. yeah, like I see. Obviously, you could go a little bit cheaper. Um, and granted, that $220, 228, is brand new. Um, yeah, it's just crazy. Like if we jump over to eBay for a second here and do, uh, if I can actually spell, uh, there's three answers. You're looking at like 130, 115 for Japanese one, 120 for Japanese. It's all over the place. For a brand new one for I think it's the Asian market, I think it's like 130 bucks, 150 for a US one, 160, 89 for a Japanese one. I think no, that's not Japanese. What region is this? Oh, it is Japanese. Uh, right. So it's all over the place. Right. So if you do want one, I would recommend check eBay. Like even the cartridge only sells for like 120. Someone's selling it just cartridge only for like 120. Um, like 112 cartridge only, 130 cartridge only. Um, Here's one brand new for like 700 for a US copy. Like it's ridiculous. So if you do want one, I would say check eBay. Um, and you might be thinking, what about game conventions? And retro stores. So they might have it, but if they know the market of what the game sells for, um, it will be priced accordingly. So just to put that out there. And you might be wondering, like, what's your take on the games? Like I said, like games are expensive to build, like just to begin with, um, and it takes time. And yes, it's annoying to see the how expensive they are getting these days. Like, there's rumors going around, at least on what I've seen on Reddit recently, that GTA 6 could be $100 at launch, and I'm like, yeah, I can see that. Like Starfield is 89. Like there's a lot of $89 games nowadays, and it's it's getting insane. Like it's going to get to the point where um, buying games even digitally could get expensive, and like I said, I'm lucky in this case because I have the vast library of Switch games behind me, 48 at the moment. But like I said, that's going to change with what I trade in to lower the cost of the Switch too. But I'll still have over 40 games by the end of it. I'll have like 46 games, 45, 46 games at the end of it, which is still a lot of games. Um, so do I need to buy a Switch 2 game right away? Probably not. I'll see sort of what games are out around that around launch, and sort of see what the pricing is for them, alongside what my budget is as well. Because pretty much everything that I make from work from now until launch pretty much is going to be put towards the Switch 2. So that's all the stuff from trade that I have sitting around me. Like I said, the Switch OLED, the PS4, the few games I have in my library behind me. And you might be wondering, like, when are you actually going to pull the trigger? I'll probably pull the trigger around launch. Maybe, depending on what my budget looks like and what time looks like as well. And also availability. That's another thing as well. Like, yeah, it's going to be crazy. I obviously don't know what the numbers are going to look like because of stuff going on stateside. But yeah, it's going to be insane. Possibly, should I say? Because of everything going on stateside, prices could jump higher than what it already is, which would be very, very annoying. The other thing that's annoying for me, and possibly people who are trading off their old Switches, is basically what you're getting for it if, in trade. Like, for me, like, I have the Tears of the Kingdom Switch OLED. It's not a standard OLED, it's the Tears of the Kingdom. And I paid almost $500 for it almost 2 years ago. And I'm getting like a third of what I paid for it. Like, I'm getting $200 for it. And you're thinking, okay, $200 is $200. So what? That's not good enough. It should be minimum $250 in my opinion. But it's annoying because if we go to GameStop right now, Switch, consoles, a Switch OLED used is like $400, right? So you're basically, and that's for used, right? For where I live, right? That's for standard Switch OLED. Like, that's not the Tears of the Kingdom edition. The Tears of the Kingdom edition is like $470 by itself. So you'd be looking at like 490 just over for where I live. And that's with tax. And it's just crazy how cheap they're giving trade and then going out and basically doubling what they're giving you for it. Right? It's frustrating. It should be $250 in my opinion. But it is what it is, and at least it's something, right? Like, for example, the PS4, which is a 1 terabyte slim, I'm only getting $70 for it, right? And that's, yes, it's been used. I've had it for almost 5 years. I actually bought it during COVID, and I loved it. But now it's pretty much worthless because there's no games coming for it. Everybody's moved over to PS5, so they're giving you basically bottom dollar for it, which I can understand that. But again, the Switch 2 and its pricing, it's aggressive. Like, do I think it's overly aggressive? Yes. Like, for example, the Switch 2 is, like I said, 700 and something Canadian with tax. And a Series X, right, which is the top tier console, is $650. Brand new for where I live. Right? So if we go to cart, right, obviously I'm not showing this. Oh my god. Do I really have to? Wow, I can't even do this without signing in. Oops, wrong. Oh, no. There you go. Just put the wrong email in. That's $734, right? So we do the math here, right? That's about a $25 difference between a Series X with tax and the Switch 2 with tax if you don't trade off, right? $25 basically. That's the price difference. And it is ridiculous how expensive it is. Do I agree with it? Do I agree with the pricing? No. And you're probably thinking, okay, what do you think it's worth? At most $500. But like I said, there are some features on it that kind of make that impossible. Like being, obviously the screen is kind of a factor, obviously. 1080p, 120 hertz, which is nice. 7.9, so basically an inch bigger than the OLED currently. A lot more storage, 4 times the capacity of the storage compared to a Switch OLED, or 8 times if you have an original Switch. It being able to do 4K from the dock, that's nice. For me, it doesn't really matter the 4K side of things because I don't record in 4K. I can't record in 4K. None of my hardware is capable of 4K recording unless I switch out the capture card, which even then is not cheap. Like for the Elgato capture card, like this is an external one, is like $200, right? There it is. 4K Pro is, yeah, it's like a $400 capture card. Is it really worth $400, right? To be able to do 4K with an 8K 60 passer. It's like, it doesn't really, for me, it's not worth it. If it was, let's say, $250, I'd probably consider it. Like, I know the computer and all the hardware that I have is capable of handling the footage. So even the Neo is 4K, and that's about 160. Unfortunately, that just doesn't work for my my setup, unfortunately. So yeah, unfortunately, it just doesn't work for me. Like even my current one, which is the older Elgato, which is the 1080 one. It's an older card. They no longer have it. So everything is minimum 4K now, which is fine. But I'm not willing to spend... Oh, here it is. HD60 Pro. That's what I have. It's like a $400 card. And I didn't... And granted, I bought this years ago. I did not pay anywhere near that. I paid, I think, 100 and something for it. Ironically, I bought it at GameStop at the time, or EB Games at the time, but now GameStop, and I love it. But unfortunately, everything now is going 4K. But even the 4K 60 is like a $400 card, and like I said, if it was, let's say, 250, I would probably consider. But for me, it doesn't make sense to spend that money. Just because I know I won't get the full use out of it, because my main monitor, which is a Samsung monitor, is not 4K capable. Neither is my secondary monitor. None of my monitors are 4K capable. It would be a completely different story if my monitors were 4K, right? And if I had the gear to be able to actually play stuff in 4K. Like my Xbox One S, for example, it's not 4K capable. My two 360s are not 4K capable. The PS3 is not. My second computer is 4K capable now because I rebuilt it 2 years ago. So for me to spend that extra $400 on a card that really I'm not going to use, there's no point. So the Switch will be 1080p 120, which is perfect because all my stuff is 1080 60 anyways. Like everything I do on the Switch or PS4, any of the 360s, the Xbox One, that's all 1080p 60. This webcam's not, which I am looking at potentially changing that out this year, that's for sure. This really needs to go. I have no control over it or anything. I might look at an Elgato webcam or something that I actually have a little bit more control over. Like the background, for example, is completely blown out, which is fine because it's a closet door, right? I really do need to look at getting a green screen, but the problem is I don't have the space behind me because I've literally have my bed like 3 feet from my desk on one end, and I have about 2 feet on the other end, right? So I don't really have the space to do it, unfortunately, and they're also expensive. So yeah, so for me, it is what it is. I've come to peace with how expensive it is, and it is what it is. Hardware is only going to get more expensive. So yeah, it's annoying, but it is what it is. And same with games, right? If there's a particular game you want, for be that on Switch, Xbox, PS5, PC even, wait for a sale. Or wait until a used copy comes up. Be that from GameStop or wherever you buy your games physically, if you're into that sort of thing. Like, as you can see, I am. And go down that route. Yes, you're still paying a decent price, but you're not paying top dollar for the game as you would if it was on launch, right? obviously there's going to be some exceptions like that, like your main Nintendo stuff, like your Metroid, your Mario, your Zelda, your Pokemon, for example, are always going to be expensive, no matter what. Like, for example, Kirby and the Forgotten Dreamland was like a $91 game, basically. Which is crazy, considering it came out 3 years ago. 2022 is when it came out. It's now 25. And it's still full price. So, basically, if there's a game you want, wait for a sale or buy used. That's what I would say. Like, don't buy games at full price. Yes, granted, I have done that in the past, and I'm stopping that, primarily with the Switch 2. Yes, like I said, there will be probably some games I do buy at full price. Like, I do need to see what Cyberpunk is at launch. I need to see what Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is at launch. And same with Pokemon ZA, right? I need to see what those games are at launch. And you might be wondering, like, when do you think Pokemon ZA is going to launch? So, I'm thinking it's going to probably be around November. Because if we look at Pokemon, for example, here, and we go to... So, it was Detective Pikachu Returns, which was 2023, is the last Switch game to come out physically, according to IGN. So if we take that right now, put that into Google, it came out October. Okay. But if we look at Pokemon Legends Arceus, for example, that was January, right? If we look at Violet, right? Scarlet and Violet, that was November, right? So it all really depends, right? Like, we have no concrete release date. All we know is it's coming out this year. Same with Metroid Prime 4, which I'm probably going to buy because I actually enjoy the Metroid games. I do need to get back playing Prime, by the way, which might come... Let me see here. Tomorrow I could actually do double streams. I could do that. Yeah, there might be another stream on Saturday. Not 100% sure. There is one tomorrow, by the way. Probably early morning. But yeah, I have to figure that out. So basically, what it comes down to is wait for the games you want to be on sale or have a used copy available and go that way. That's what I'm going to do primarily for the Switch 2. Just because these prices are getting a little bit crazy, and it is what it is. So yeah, and again, I have a ton of games behind me. I don't need to buy a ton of games at launch for the Switch 2. Yes, I probably will buy at least one game on launch, if I can even get a unit on launch, that is. And that's a whole other can of worms. But anyways, bye-bye.